Hi everyone, this video is going to be looking at the multiplier effect. You've got here the formula that you would use to calculate the multiplier effect. Now first of all, the multiplier effect is where an injection into the economy will lead to GDP increasing by more than what was originally injected into the country. So for example, we might have a £10 billion government spending spree, and that could lead to GDP actually increasing by £30 billion or by £25 billion, etc. We might have businesses that might invest £5 billion into the local economy, and that could see GDP increasing by £20 billion. So the economy has grown by more than what was originally injected into the economy. I think it's worth noting that if you were to reduce withdrawals, these can also create multiplier effects. Right, so we've got two formulas that we need to be looking at to understand the multiplier effect. Don't worry about these numbers in red yet, we'll come back to these. So one formula, 1 divided by 1 minus the MPC. The other one, 1 divided by the MPW. Now you've got here a list of the key terms which you need to know for this topic. The MPC, the marginal propensity to consume. This is the proportion of additional income which people devote towards spending on domestic goods and services. MPS, the marginal propensity to save. This is the proportion of additional income that people devote towards savings. We've got the marginal propensity to import, the MPM, the proportion of additional income which is used to buy foreign goods and services. And then finally the MPT, the marginal propensity to tax. This is looking at the proportion of additional income which is used to pay taxes to the government. The MPW, the marginal propensity to withdraw, is the sum of the MPS, the MPM and the MPT. Right, so to give you a numerical example then, let's imagine that the government were to give me an additional £100 of income. So they're saying, Daryl, go and produce £100 extra output, here's some cash to sort of compensate you for it. Now what we've then got are some different numbers which are worth sort of noting down. If I look at this, I've got an MPC of 0.6. Now what that means is that I'm going to spend 60% of that additional income, that £100, on buying domestic goods and services. So 60 out of £100 will be used to buy domestic goods and services. I'm choosing to save £20, so 20% of that £100. £10 of it, so 10% will be used to buy imports, and 10% or £10 will be used to pay taxes. So of that £100 we can see how it's going to be accounted for. £60 will be used to buy goods and services in our economy, £20 will be saved, and then £10 will go towards buying foreign goods and services, and £10 will go towards the taxes that I've got to pay. Now if we add these three different withdrawals together, we get an overall MPW of 0.4. So it means 60% of my money has been spent domestically on our goods and services, 40% will withdraw out of the economy. Now what I can then do, I can then use the multiplier formula. So if I was to input numbers into this top one here, 1 divided by the MPC, remember the MPC is 0.6, so that would be 0.4. 1 divided by 0.4 is 2.5. If I use the other formula, the MPW is 0.4, so 1 divided by 0.4 is also 2.5. Now when you think about that, if I do 1 take away the MPC, it will give me the MPW. Now what this 2.5 means is for every £1 that we're injecting into the economy, GDP will actually grow by £2.50. So if I'm injecting £100 in, I would multiply it by 2.5 and I would get £250. So from that £100 that I injected in, well the government injected in, GDP will grow by £250 for that £100 injected. What we can then do is to look at some numerical examples here. Now what this shows you is how the multiplier effect can change and how that will impact on the economy. So I'm going for this scenario, and I'm assuming the government, let's check that one, are choosing to spend or inject an extra £10 billion into the economy. So this could be current expenditure, more money for the National Health Service, for education. It could be capital expenditure, which could be spending on infrastructure across the economy. Now, if we set the MPC equal to 0.6, then we can use the formulas to work out that the multiplier, in this case here, would be 2.5. We multiply it by the £10 billion injected in, and GDP would grow by £25 billion. The other one though, look at this. When we change the MPC down to 0.2, it means that people are only going to be spending 20% of additional income on domestic goods and services. 80% of it will be used to withdraw. In other words, pay for savings, taxes and imports. And when we use the formula this time, look at the difference. We get a multiplier of 1.25. Right, now what this will now mean is that when we inject £10 billion in, GDP will only grow by £12.5 billion. So what you can see is here, if the multiplier is as high as, 2.5, that £10 billion will create growth of £25 billion. If the multiplier is only 1.25, we're only going to get £12.5 billion of growth in the economy. Another numerical example. Let's imagine now that a local business decides to inject £10 billion into the Kirklees economy. So this could be building a new factory, for example, which will create lots of jobs in the local area, help local businesses out. Now, if we were to inject £10 billion for investment into the economy, if we had a high marginal propensity to withdraw of 0.7, it would mean that the MPC is only 0.3. There was 70% of money injected in will withdraw out of the economy pretty quickly. Now, when we use the formula this time, look what happens. We're going to get a multiplier effect of 1.43. So when we inject £10 billion in here, GDP will grow by £14.3 billion. But look what happens when we lower the MPW to 0.3. The multiplier grows to 3.33, which would mean this time the economy grows by £33.3 billion. Now, just to bring all this together, let's have a look at this. Now, clearly, if you're trying to promote economic growth, you want to have a big multiplier effect. So for every pound that's injected in, you're going to get a more significant increase in GDP you would do with a big multiplier than you would do with a small multiplier. Now, you're going to get a big multiplier when the MPC is high. So when people get additional income, they spend most of it on domestic goods and services. You're also going to get a big multiplier effect when the MPW is therefore small. Flip it round, you're going to get a small multiplier effect if the MPC is low, which means the MPW will be high. Now, let me give you an example of this. At the moment, because of the coronavirus, our government is injecting billions of pounds into the economy to help tackle and remove some of the risks of a recession in our economy. Now, what we would like is for people to have a high marginal propensity to consume. So when they get extra money, it will be spent domestically on goods and services. But if people have got pretty low animal spirits, the MPW might be quite high. Additional income might be saved if people are worried about jobs and the future of the economy and their businesses. They may not choose to spend it. Now, what we can then do, we can lower interest rates. If you were to lower interest rates, for example, you lower the attractiveness of savings, and that would incentivise more people to spend the additional income rather than save it. So what we're going to be looking at in the next few weeks are different ways that we can manipulate multiplier effects by trying to somehow adjust the MPC and the MPW. Okay, cheers everyone.